Hello everybody, it's Julia here from the Highly Sensitive Tarot, and this is my last Dropham 78 Tarot Challenge video for 2024, and I have to say I'm glad. That sounds terrible, doesn't it? It's not that I haven't enjoyed this challenge, I really have. I think it's really deepened my knowledge, it's deepened my practice. It's been really good to compare two very different decks, especially as this deck is had the Strength and the Justice card the other way round, you know, card number 8 and card number 11 to this card. That made it a bit more interesting as well to think about. Yeah, it's been a really interesting challenge, but I think what it's really made me realise is that I don't like deadlines. When I worked, you know, when I was a mental health nurse, my job was full of deadlines. My life was full of deadlines and pressures and having to achieve certain things by certain times, deadlines. And I suppose since I gave up work, I've not had too many deadlines with anything really. Even with my channel, I record videos when I feel like it. I rarely set myself a deadline to do anything. And obviously this challenge has had to be done every day. And I sort of committed myself to a video every day as well at the end of the week. Well, a video once a week at the end of the week. And I'd been recording these videos because I think this is the 10th or 11th video. I've been recording them on a Sunday, and normally my Sundays are very quiet days. And so I think it's really made me realise that perhaps these sort of challenges are not the way forward for me. I'm better with something that I can do when I want to, when it fits in, when I've got the time, when I've got the energy. But anyway, I am really pleased with myself that I've finished this challenge. It has definitely been interesting. And as this is my last video, this is 10 cards, I think, rather than 7 cards, because I didn't think there was any point in, well, I wouldn't have had time, to be honest, to have recorded a video on Sunday. So I'm recording it today, which is New Year's Day. In the morning, I've gotten up to do this video, and yeah, I've got one more video to come actually. I'm going to do a little face-on video just talking about my reflections of 2024 with my channel, my plans going forward, and maybe some shout outs for some of my favourite channels and favourite conversations and topics, things that have gone on YouTube over the last year. So I'm hoping to record that tomorrow actually, but we'll see, because like I said, I don't like deadlines. So anyway, without further ado, because I realise this will take a little while, and actually I do want to say thank you so much to anybody who's still watching, because I think whenever you do these kind of challenges, I've noticed with people and myself that your views drop off week on week. They start off quite good and people drop out from watching over time. So if you're still here and you're still watching, thank you so much. Thank you so much. So where are we up to? So the first card is the Hanged Man, isn't it? Card number 12. And this was last Sunday. This was before Christmas, the 22nd of December. And my description of this card is that this is really a pause, isn't it? This is looking at things from a different perspective. Could represent idealism. It's definitely a sacrifice or the need to make a decision. You could be waiting for the best opportunity, buying yourself some time, reflecting before you act. But there's also an energy, isn't there, with this card of sort of giving in and accepting the current situation, staying calm, not fighting it. I seem to always remember that this is Odin's story, isn't it? That he hung from the tree of life in order to gain wisdom. So it's that kind of energy, isn't it? The detail in this card, I just sort of written that this monkey's arms are crossed, aren't they? Which, you know, normally if you cross your arms, it's quite a protective move to sort of shield your body. But it can also be, maybe for this card, the suspended monkey, it could just be that he's not decided yet whether he's going to get off the tree or hang there a bit longer. I like the mandala on his stomach, the Buddhist reference there. With the Curious Travels deck here, I've written that this snake that's curved around this person is like an anchor, isn't it? It's the snake that's holding the person up. But the snake could also be an omen, couldn't it? I mean, snakes represent different things to different people. For some people, they're quite an evil thing. So this could be a warning in some way, couldn't it? It could be a warning to stay still and to not fight, or the snake will bite you. But it also could just be a very protective thing, couldn't it? So reflecting on my week, on my day with this card, I've written that this week has been hermiting, that I've mostly been hermiting this week. There was a lot of it, and that was the week before Christmas. So I've just sort of written that I guess a lot of that energy has just been about giving in and accepting my situation, about staying calm and protective of my energy, of my well-being, and just really accepting my situation currently. So there we go. So for Monday, the 23rd of December, we have the Death card here. And in the El Goliath deck, this is the metamorphic moth. And I've written, this is about cycles, endings and beginnings, a sort of metamorphosis, completing a change, the parting of ways, accepting the natural order of things, letting go, understanding really that nothing truly dies, things just evolve and change their state of being. I think that's really important. And the detail in this card is the snake curling around the moth. That El Goliath, in his guidebook, he'd written that this snake is actually an infinity symbol, which we can't see here in this picture, but it represents eternity. It represents the eternal cycles of life. And obviously with these moths here, they're in a constant state of transformation and metamorphosis, aren't they? There's a moth, isn't there, called is it a death head moth? I'm not sure. It could be that moth, couldn't it? In the Curious Travels deck here, we've got death, you know, with the crescent moon underneath him, with somebody perhaps dead on the moon with other people around them. There's it looks like a Tudor rose, doesn't it, in the corner? And I think roses suggest that sort of change and immortality, don't they? We see them a lot, that symbol a lot in cards. I think this card is just really saying that death will come for everybody, and that it's really only a change in physical planes. That what has ended recently, I don't want to say, it's about being accepting of the situation, accepting of the transition, and keeping your head up really and looking for new opportunities and possibilities that are waiting for you, because it's not the end, is it? It's the end of something, but inevitably there's the start of something new, whatever that is. And I'd related this to my day, really revolving around that word acceptance. It's something I've really needed to get my head around. I don't want to say too much about my personal circumstances, but something has ended in the not too distant past. And, you know, I have quite an anxious mind. And I think when you've got an anxious mind, it procrastinates, it goes over and over things. It can be a bit obsessional. It'll hyper focus in on certain things and just tie you up in knots, really. And so I've been sort of meditating a bit on that energy of acceptance. But also something I think I read in El Goliath's guidebook was, he just had written this sentence: what happens to things that don't bend, they break. You know, things that are not nourished and looked after, they become brittle, don't they? And then they're at risk of breaking. And I don't know, that just resonated a lot for me, that in my acceptance of my situation, I need to be able to be flexible and bend in my thought processes, not be rigid and become brittle and sad and overly preoccupied with that energy. I hope that makes sense. So yeah, that was death. And then we have for Tuesday the 24th, so for Christmas Eve, we have temperance. And my description of this card is balance and flow, the blending of energies, a sort of moderation. It could be about avoiding extremes, being flexible. It's a beautiful, gentle card that brings together that sort of duality in life. And in my detail of this card, I've just written just how unusually beautiful this card is for the El Goliath deck. We've got these koi carp here, we've got the lotus flowers, we've got the yin and the yang, we've got all the gorgeous water, all the emotions. It's a beautiful card. I don't know what else to say about it. It's very gentle. In the Curious Travels deck here, I've written it's interesting to see a little boy in this card instead of the angel or the sort of androgynous creature, the female, the angel, whatever that person is. And so perhaps this card is just reminding us that the Temperance card does not conform to gender, that it can be androgynous. And I just like the little boy here. His crown has fallen over his eyes, so he's going on blind faith, isn't he? He's an innocent soul who's guided by his higher self. And relating to this to my day, I've written that I had a very nice quiet day, getting organised for tomorrow, for Christmas Day. And I had planned to cook lots and lots of different things, but I moderated my expectations around this. I avoided the extremes of either lots and lots of cooking or no cooking, and I went for something in the middle of that. And actually, it was a really good day. It was a really peaceful, gentle day for me, actually. And I have since just done my year ahead spread for 2025, you know, one card for each month of the year. And for January, my card is Temperance. So that's a really lovely energy for me to start the year off in, I think. Much needed. I just think this is brilliant how this has all been timed, these cards to come out on different certain days. You know, the devil for Christmas Day is a brilliant energy, isn't it? You know, the description for this card is low vibrational energies, lies, deceit, greed, obsessions, overindulging, perhaps, addictions, codependencies, repression of yourself or others, having a dark heart, having many temptations, control and manipulation, and very definitely a materialism. And I think when I get this card in a reading, I'm always looking for those red flags, you know. So lots of those energies there could relate to Christmas Day, couldn't they? Because Christmas Day is not really a spiritual celebration for most people these days. It's a day of massive materialism and greed and overindulgence, isn't it? So it's very much a devil energy. The detail in this card, I've just written just those eyes. I mean, I know there's the blood coming out of the goat's mouth, which is not something you'd ever expect to see. Goats with sharp teeth and blood. Because I think they're vegetarians, aren't they, perhaps? But it was the eyes, particularly, just these shark eyes. They're black and kind of insane at the same time, as devoid of any kind of humanity. I don't know whether that makes sense. They're cold, and they reminded me, actually, this is the Master of Lies, this card, and I think it's a brilliant card, actually. They remind me, those eyes, of eyes that I've seen when I was a mental health nurse in people that were not necessarily completely insane, but people that were very bad. You know, in my nursing days, I came across people that weren't mad, they were bad. And there was like a complete absence of any humanity in their eyes. They were dead, flat, shark eyes. And I think that's what these eyes here are making me feel. There's no compassion in those eyes, you know. In the Curious Travels deck, we've got here, I've written, this is seduced by the promise of instant gratification, which I think is kind of all that's wrong with the world, really. I mean, we're all guilty of it now and again, aren't we? But some more than others. It's that short-term thinking that seems to be rife in society, you know, even down to things like, you know, when I was a kid, if you had a washing machine or a fridge freezer, it would seem to go all your life, wouldn't it? They would last 20 odd years. But these days, things don't last, do they? And that, you know, we seem to forever have things break. We're always having to buy new things. I know that's a strange way to sort of look at this devil energy, but it's that short-term thinking, isn't it? That the manufacturers are not building things to last, I suppose, and perhaps we're not doing that in lots of ways in our lives. We're not setting those very firm foundations that we need for relationships and perhaps for people, for their careers, for their families. I don't know, but I also thought it was really interesting in this card that we can see here these people are starting to grow horns. So it's again, it's that addictive sort of lure, the slippery slope of that downward spiral in life of not making good decisions, of bad behaviour. And how I related that to my day, well, I obviously had a lovely Christmas day with my parents. It was all about food and presents and good conversation, laughs, reminiscing, I was very happy to look after my parents for the day, and I really was determined not to fall into any of this devil energy, and for it to be a day of giving for me. You know I got some presents and I received some things, but my main intent and energy for that day was a day of giving out of my energy. So it was a good day. So for Boxing Day, which was Thursday, the 26th, we have the Tower. And my description for this card is a sudden, swift upheaval, lessons in life, trauma, challenges, feeling exposed and vulnerable. The foundations of your life crumbling, a meltdown, chaos, extreme change. And for the detail of this card, I've just written it's another very difficult card to look at. These birds here just screaming as their home burns. There's almost even, I think, tears in that bird's eye there, and they've got their nest with their babies. It's just the absolute horror of this burning tree. The absolute horror of it is really hard to look at. And in the Curious Travels deck here, I've got this poor man falling into the flames, and this is much more of a traditional tower. And perhaps if it had been, that thought that perhaps if it had built on more firm foundations, it wouldn't have collapsed, But the poor birds, they just built their nest in a tree, and the tree was struck by lightning, and that there's nothing that anybody could have done about that, is there? So, some things in life just happen to us, acts of fate, just very bad luck sometimes, and other times they're things where we've neglected to do things properly. We've neglected to think things through, to lay out the foundations of things properly. And how I related this to my day, well, I just put that change is a very scary thing. And I sort of reflected with this energy on that sort of resisting and clinging to certain situations, to life. It just prolongs your torment, doesn't it, really? And this is something I struggle with a lot. It again made me think that it's important to stay flexible rather than rigid in your thinking, and that rigidity becomes brittle and will break under stress. Now I'm looking back on this, I'm not even sure how that relates particularly to the Tower card, but these were just my thoughts on my nice, peaceful Boxing Day, really. So, yeah. And then we move to the Star, which was Friday, the 27th of December. And the description for this is hope, inspiration, opportunities, newfound focus, luck, something or someone that lights up your life, trusting your inner voice, trusting your inner compass, trust in the universe. The detail is that this tree trunk here, it looks like a star, doesn't it? This is the cosmic guide. And it's supposed to be a tree trunk. And yeah, it does look like a star, doesn't it? And it reminds you that we're all part of something bigger, aren't we? We see these patterns everywhere in life. I remember seeing a YouTube program one day where somebody was looking at the earth from very high up, on Google Earth or something, and the rivers and lots of the parts of the earth that they were looking at, it looked like capillaries, it looked like blood vessels, it looked like part of a person's body, and there are lots of those things in life that we see, aren't there? you know, like certain vegetables can look like parts of a body. They can look like lungs and brains and things, can't they? And there are just a lot of things like that. I don't know whether that's relevant to the star, but that was what it made me think. In the Curious Travels deck, I've just written that she's sitting here very demurely, isn't she? She's got one foot in and one foot out, which is like the conscious and the subconscious. It's just, and again, she's veiled. She's working on her higher good there. It has a very gentle and relaxed feel, that card. And for my day, I just written this was a very peaceful day. I reflected on this energy quite a lot, that, you know, I don't ever give up hope in life. And I've faced some adversity in my life over the years, you know, some quite difficult things, but I've always had quite a strong inner voice. And that voice will always remind me that I've lived long enough to know that nothing is set in tablets of stone, that you can wake up one day and life just changes, you know. So I've never given up hope. I've always trusted my inner voice and my own inner star. So for Saturday, we have the moon. This is the 28th of December, and this is deceptions, illusions, fears, your subconscious, your unconscious. It's about dreams and visions. It can be about madness, phases and cycles. It's definitely the night, isn't it? It's about reality versus illusions. It can represent your emotional self, I think. It can sometimes be about tackling your fears and even a dark night of the soul. So the detail for this card, I've written, this is like laying on your back, isn't it? Looking up at the moon through the clouds. And I've done that so many times in my life. I like looking up at the moon. I really like this card. For the Curious Travels deck here, I've just put the crayfish reaches towards the moon. This is a much more traditional image, isn't it? And I think that crayfish is supposed to be sort of representing that exploring of the subconscious. I don't really have a lot else to write about this, really. And I related this to my day, that something had been going round and round my head that day, and there was an illusionary quality to that. I was feeling quite emotional on that Saturday, and yeah, had to really give myself a good talking to, I think, actually, about, you know, the old reality versus illusions thing. So yeah, that was Saturday. And then Sunday, we're right near the end now, aren't we? Sunday the 29th of December is the sun. And I've written this is about being happy, harmony, all the good things, pleasure, warmth, celebration, renewal, vitality. Everything's okay. It's like the fool makes it through the dark night of the soul of the moon and emerges into the light of the sun. And it's all good things. It's healing. The detail in this card, I just like the bears. These are sun bears surrounded by sunflowers, and I just really like that the baby bear there is sticking his tongue out, which it just represents perhaps that sort of innocent joy of childhood. In the Curious Travels deck here, I thought this was a beautiful image, actually. I think it's just lush and green and warm, isn't it? I like the woman sitting on this lovely horse. And I'd read in the book that the sunflowers here represent the 4 elements, or the minor arcana. There's 4 sunflowers there. It's just really nice. And relating it to my day, I've written, I can't say that I felt this energy strongly, that I was perhaps still in a bit of moon energy, but I'm very much looking forward to this energy returning, because I know that it will. I miss the sun's warmth, I miss the sun's light. We've had the shortest day, haven't we? The sun will return, and I know that in myself the sun will return as well. So, and then we have Judgment, and this is for Monday, the 30th of December. And I've written for my description of this card that this is like a breakthrough. It's a transformation. It's about faith. It can be letting go of shame or coming to a big realization of something. It's about tearing down old paradigms and ideas that no longer serve you. It can be about growth, seeing life in a new light, having a significant moment. And the detail of this, again, this is not a nice card to look at. And it's like, has the bear realised that it swum too far from land? Is this a time of reckoning or a realisation for this bear? I don't know, but I don't like that card. It's not an image that I like to look at. In the Curious Travels deck here, this is a very Rider-Waite-Smith card, isn't it? That the dead are emerging from their graves. I think this is about Archangel Gabriel, isn't it? To see whether they will be accepted into heaven. Again, I don't have a great deal to say about that card. It's not. It's judgment. It's a traditional judgment card. It doesn't fill me with a huge amount of inspiration, to be honest. The judgment card is a brilliant card. It's a card that it's a big, scary card, I think, for a lot of people, but I don't see it that way particularly for myself, because I think at times in my life where I've had a breakthrough or a significant moment or a big realization of something, it's been a kind of letting go of shame or pain or confusion, and it's a relief, to be honest, to reach the judgment card. It's a relief to have that energy. And I've written about my day is that I'd faced a big realization today and started to see things in a new light, and that this has definitely been a time of growth and letting go for me. So there's a relief in me for that. I can feel, lighter for having this energy in my life, so that's a good thing. And then the last card of my Drop 'em 78 Tarot Challenge was for yesterday, New Year's Eve. And what a great card to finish on for New Year's Eve, and it is the World card. And I've written for this card that this is coming full circle. This is a cycle reset, a completion, an evolution, bringing things together, realising that nothing truly ends, that we just start this big loop again. It's a total realisation of something, the totality of all things. And the detail in this card, I've written, that these fish, they have their own world, don't they? They have their own microcosm. I don't know whether that's the right way to describe it, but it's like they have their own purpose in their own world. We can sometimes just see fish as being something that are there for us to look at and enjoy, or fish that are there for us to catch and eat, but actually they have their own little universe. They have their own ecosystem, their own purpose, their own structure in their own little societies. Yeah, they have their own world. I don't know how. I didn't read the entire bit in the El Goliath book for this, so I'm not really sure what he meant for this, but he's called it the sacred circle. And yeah, so I hope that that kind of resonates what I just said, that, you know, these fish have their own world where they all have their own purpose. And yeah. And in the Curious Travels deck, it's like this woman is in a circus ring there in the middle, isn't she? But she's got a leg pointing out and upwards out of this ring. And to me, that sort of represented that she's ready to move forwards again. She's not just contained within the ring, she's coming out of the ring. So it's time for things to take another shape, perhaps. You know, if she's a circus act, she's going to spring out into another shape, isn't she? And the zodiac signs are like in the card, the Wheel of Fortune, aren't they? And I think they're there really to encourage us to move into the next phase of our life, the next phase of our evolution, of our maturation. And I put this as such a great card for New Year's Eve. We're just on the brink of a bright new year, and I've written, looking back, I've learned a lot this year. It's been a very difficult year in many ways, but I kind of end where I started on December 31st, 2023, with a world of possibilities and opportunities in front of me, and I need to be grateful for that. I am grateful for that. I'm grateful for all the people in my life. And yeah, so that's it really. This is the end of the Drop 78. It's the end. But as with everything, it's not the end of my exploration and my journey into my tarot cards. There will be other challenges on other days that I'm sure I'll benefit from, like I have this challenge, and like other things that have taken their time to come to an end. I'm happy that this challenge has come to an end. I've enjoyed looking at these decks. I've enjoyed comparing them. And what I've realised actually is, out of the two decks, I really enjoy the Curious Travels deck much more than I enjoy the El Goliath deck. And that's very interesting. This was a deck that I'd had my eye on for so long, you know, seeing it on other people's channels. It was an indie deck, it was expensive. I was so over the moon when I found a really good secondhand copy of it on eBay, which I paid quite a bit of money for. But the Curious Travels deck was a mass market deck. It was a deck that I would have never considered buying just from looking at the box, because it didn't do a lot for me. But then I saw it being talked about, I think on Simon's channel, The Hermit's Cave, and I just fell in love with it. It just fell into my life just like that, with no preoccupations and no hankering after it for months at a time. It just fell into my hands, and it's a fantastic deck. I love it. So there we go. It's been a really, really interesting challenge. I managed to fill up an entire journal and half of another journal doing this. So yeah, I've really enjoyed it. If, like I said, if you've watched to the end, if you've stayed with me on this journey, thank you so much. I hope that some of it's resonated with you, or at least been thought-provoking for you. And yeah, thanks for being here with me. And I'm sending you all my love, and I will see you all again soon. Thank you.